Kieran McAnulty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Associate Minister of Housing, how many New Zealanders are homeless now compared to when his government was elected?
The Honourable Tama Potaka.
Any response to that question is influenced by how I define homelessness, but I'll use two data sets for the purposes of this question. If you mean those households living in emergency housing, in October 2023, there were 3,402 households living in emergency housing. In May 2025, there were 510, a drop of circa 3,000 households. If I use those persons living without shelter, as we know in census 2023, there were 4,965, quite a bit more than census 2018, 3,624, and today there's no formal comparative figure to the census stats.
Supplementary. Why, when frontline providers are telling him consistently that his policies have contributed to unprecedented increases in homelessness, does he refuse to admit that homelessness has increased under his watch?
It's McAnulty. And following up from earlier discussions and kōrero between the member and myself at scrutiny session, there are a range of observations, there are a range of views as to the causes and the contributors to emergency housing. There is not one single cause or reason why people become homeless, live without shelter, or end up in emergency housing.
Supplementary. Who are the, quote, some providers, end quote, he says, that don't link rising homelessness to his policies?
It's McAnulty. May I refer to the Homelessness Insights report, which I'm sure the member has had access to and pored over vigorously in the last few weeks. That report states that there may be, from the providers, it may be attributable to changes, but there are also a range of cost of living, health, drug addiction, and a whole range of other factors that can contribute to homelessness.
Supplementary. Why did he claim that the census was the, quote, single source of truth, end quote, when it came to measuring homelessness, when the census was abolished by this government the very next day?
It's McAnulty. It has been the single formed source of truth for these numbers. However, we continue to seek and have proffered to us and furnished to us a range of reports, including the Homelessness Insights report, which is due shortly.
Supplementary. Will he, now that the census will be abolished by this government, finally listen to the frontline providers who have told him that his policies have made homelessness, quote, the worst it's been in living memory, end quote?
It's McAnulty. As I've said earlier, there are a range of observations and views, not just from providers, but also from iwi, Māori organisations like the Ōwhata 2B and 7D Trust, which I recently attended to celebrate the opening of various housing developments that they have and commit to funding for further housing that they can build and go to. There is no one conclusive view right now across those various sources of information.
Supplementary.
Supplementary, the Honourable Nicola Willis.
Has the Minister considered pledging, as previous ministers have, to shelter all homeless people within 4 weeks of coming to office, or does he judge that there are often complex reasons for people's homelessness that Jacinda Ardern should have realised before she made that broken pledge?
Look, how many times have I warned about that? I'm telling the Minister, that's the last time this week, next week, the rest of the Parliament, that a question is used to attack the opposition. Unacceptable.
Supplementary, sir. Does he agree with Dr. Ange Jury from Women's Refuge, who said, quote, the refugees are having a huge amount of difficulty getting emergency housing support for our clients. It used to be really easy to access, to be honest. If someone arrived at a work and income office with a refuge advocate, then it was a done deal. But it's not like that anymore, end quote. If not, why not?
Shame.
It's McAnulty.
What do you say to that?
Allegations and assertions that the member made last week in scrutiny in relation to these related matters are serious. And as a result, I have called the member to ask for further evidence and attribution around the claims that were made at Scrutiny Week. I'm still awaiting specific info. Because Te Manatu Whakahia to Ora, the Ministry for Social Development, has told me as late as this afternoon that there is no evidence to show that emergency housing has been declined to anyone on the basis that they contributed to their housing need as a result of being a domestic violence victim. And I still await that specific information.